Well, hello, everyone. The great philosopher Socrates said once, the greatest sin is not to know thyself. Welcome to the Get in the Mode podcast. In this new series of self discovery and self mastery, we talk with experts on the topics related to the role of self mastery and knowing yourself in leadership. We welcome our first guest, Alex Raymond, the founder of Kapta and the organizer of one of the greatest, the kind of a cool summit. I think it's interesting. It's called the Conscious Entrepreneur Summit. I'm very excited to learn more about Alex and what the summit is all about. Alex, welcome to the Get in the Mode podcast.
Awesome. Well, thanks, David. Thanks for inviting me. Great to be here. Congrats on everything you're doing with both ModeStack and with this podcast.
Awesome. Well, let's kick it off by, why don't you share a little bit about your background, what you've been up to in the last 5 years or so? Maybe we'll start there.
Yeah, sure. So I live in Boulder, Colorado, and I am an entrepreneur building a company called Kapta. That's kapta.com, Kapta. We provide software for the post-sales account management professionals. And so we are, really in a very interesting space. There's a lot going on with the SaaS world these days. And I've been deeply involved in the tech community and the startup community more broadly here in Colorado. So that includes not only working on Kapta, but we also went through the Techstars Accelerator here in Boulder a few years ago. I've been a mentor for many companies that are also going through Techstars. And so I've seen a lot of companies at the early stages of their life with big ambitions, lots going on. And I really like that stage of business of really just creating something out of nothing. And one of the things that I've noticed over time and have experienced myself, which I know we're going to get into in a lot more detail here, is making sure that as a founder, as an entrepreneur is starting their journey, that they have the internal tools in order to be able to build the company of their dreams. And so a lot of people have a lot of ambitions, they got a lot of energy, a lot of great ideas, but they don't necessarily look after themselves in a way that's going to set them up for long-term success. So that's something that I've been acutely aware of myself, seen companies, individuals go through this problem, have suffered from it myself. And that's what we are going to bring together, talk about, and hopefully solve some of these problems at the Conscious Entrepreneur Summit here in Denver on May 17th and 18th.
Awesome. I'm excited to learn more with some questions that I have for you. So to start with, I saw on your website on the Conscious Entrepreneur Summit, talks a little bit about bro culture, the hustle economy. What exactly do we mean by that?
Yeah, this is a world that I'm very familiar with, you're very familiar with, probably a lot of your listeners are too. We live in this world that just glorifies the hustle, right? And the idea that I should be working 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, and just never give up and burning the candle on both ends and winners never quit and all this sort of stuff. And it's especially true when you're in the startup world, right? It's like, okay, I got to do everything I can. It's me against the universe, and I'm pushing my boulder up the hill, and all this kind of stuff. And what that does is it really creates this perception that success lies by going through the universe as opposed to going with the universe, right? So it's like you're working against it, or you're working for it. And I've seen just so many entrepreneurs, including myself, just get sucked up in this. And when you really buy into this idea of hustle culture and tech bros and all this kind of stuff, guess what? You wind up comparing yourself to others all the time instead of focusing on what's important for you. You really personalize things instead of realizing that you're part of an ecosystem, you're part of a community, for example. And so it leads to some pretty unhealthy dynamics out there. And, when I was looking at putting together this event to bring together entrepreneurs to talk about how to set ourselves up for true long-term success, I wanted to avoid some of those shortcuts. I wanted to avoid some of those platitudes and stuff like that, and really recognize that building a company, doing a startup, being an entrepreneur, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so you can't get there just by saying something like, oh, work harder and, the hustle culture and all this kind of stuff. And so we want to understand that you focus on the human being. You focus on what it takes to build internal strength and resilience for yourself. Those are the keys to making this work in the long term, not burning yourself out and never quite getting there because you're working too hard. And so it's really important to recognize how much people need community. They need balance. They need integration as they go through this. Of course, you can be successful. You can build an impactful company. You can make a lot of money. You can do what you are trying to do. And at the same time, you don't have to do it with that hustle bro kind of attitude.
Yeah, I'm curious. I've been trapped in that too earlier in my entrepreneurial life. Not saying I've got it all figured out. I'm curious why. Take a step back. So entrepreneurs, we always want to make a difference. We want to do something meaningful. We always want to change the world. We want to bring in some disruption. We talk a lot about this, right? So I'm curious, why do we get sucked into this sort of thinking where, potentially it could eventually lead to burnout, really bad, very sad things. What is it in us as entrepreneurs that is leading us into this trap of, this culture that you're talking about?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. A lot of it comes down to, for example, the mental models that we hold, right? So how we see the world. And one of the assumptions that we make as entrepreneurs is I have to grow at all costs. And so if growth is my ultimate yardstick, the way that I measure myself, the way that I measure my success, then I'm always out there chasing growth. Similarly, if I let someone else define the terms of my self-worth, then I'm playing their game. And so what I mean by that is, people who are trying to attract investors or, get a VC on board or attract resources to grow their company and start their company, they're going to default to what they're hearing from the market, what investors are telling them, what the VC is telling them, what their peers are doing, what their competitors are doing. And so you get into this mindset like, oh, I've got to grow. Or on top of that, I've got to do these things because everyone else is doing them. And you can set the wrong priorities, if you will. You're not listening to yourself. You're not doing the things that you know are going to make sense for you. So that creates this really confused state of mind for a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Where it's like, well, I've been told this and this and this. So everyone's running around kind of like spinning their wheels, if you will. And so to your point, that can lead to burnout. And it's really about not understanding what works for you, right? And some people that works for them and they want to go and just go all out and really crazy and super aggressive and fine. But that's not 100% of entrepreneurs. That's maybe 5% of entrepreneurs, right? The rest are looking for integration in their life and they're looking to build long-term businesses and have less stress and more freedom in their life and therefore require a different approach.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that having that internal mental model. I always, now I'm kind of realizing how congruent is your vision for your personal life to the vision for your company, right? If you cannot live it, you cannot sell it. And people always see through that. Otherwise, like you said, you're responding to external stimuli, what the investors are asking from you, what the market is saying, and you really end up sort of compromising a lot of your, internal values and, that you've kind of want to build in the first place upon, right? Tell us a little bit about the conscious entrepreneur. You kind of come up with that term. What does that mean? What's sort of the antidote that you're proposing?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, one of the most simplest ways to explain this is it's like when you're in the airplane, right? And in the airplane, they say, put your oxygen mask on before helping others. And that's what we're bringing with the Conscious Entrepreneur Summit. The idea that no one else is looking out for you. No one else is looking after you. And your job as an entrepreneur is very difficult. It's very complex. There's so many moving parts. There's so many demands on your time and your energy. You need to take care of yourself first in order to show up as your best version of yourself, in order to get the results that you're looking for. So we are inviting a conversation about priorities, right? What do I want? About values. How do I want to live? About building resilience, about building creativity, about mastering yourself, about overcoming things. And in my experience, in having worked with lots and lots of entrepreneurs, people really lean into these conversations. They want to have these conversations. But at the same time, they don't know quite how to approach it, right? Or maybe they've never seen this happen before. They don't know what this is like, which is why there's amazing support groups for CEOs and entrepreneurs and things like that. And so we want to make sure that entrepreneurs, no matter where they are along their journey, understand that it's okay to have these types of conversations. It's really good for you. And the most important thing is, for every dollar you invest in yourself, for every hour you invest in yourself, that pays back 10, 50, 100 times. And it pays back to you, your customers, your partners, your employees, your family, your community, everybody out there. Because if you're a mess inside, then guess what? You're not present. You're not effective. You're not doing the things that you should be doing. You're not healthy. You're not happy. And therefore, you're just not as effective as a person as you can be. And so you look after yourself first, then that really allows you to unleash all your talents. So that's what we're trying to get to with the Conscious Entrepreneur Summit.
Yeah, I mean, I think have taking in oxygen in turbulence for yourself before you put the mask on someone else, right? So yeah, that's absolutely true. And tell us a little bit about the summit. What exactly? It sounds like it's a 2-day summit. I'm curious, what do you have in store for in that summit?
Yeah, great. Well, so the Conscious Entrepreneur Summit, this is the first annual. And so really excited about it. ConsciousEntrepreneur.us is the website. It's May 17th and May 18th here in Denver, Colorado. Now, why 2 days? Well, it's 2 days because we have a lot of people coming in from out of state, and we want to make it really worthwhile for those people. But also, there's just so much content. There's more than we can get through in 1 day. And so I wanted to make sure that we have an absolutely top-notch event. And so what I did was connected with a lot of people who I personally have learned from over the years and shared with them, hey, what can we do to help entrepreneurs? Can we put something like this together? And that was really the genesis of this particular conference. And so some of the speakers might be familiar to you or might be familiar to your listeners, but they are all absolutely top-notch, dedicated to the well-being of entrepreneurs, dedicating to unlocking human potential. So it's people like Dr. Srikumar Rao, who is a really well-known, just absolutely outstanding business school professor, taught some of the most popular courses in business schools like Kellogg, Berkeley, Columbia, and London Business School. He's doing a talk that's called "Being a Business Titan is Your Spiritual Path." And so that's just a tremendous way to bring together so much knowledge that he has and share that with entrepreneurs. Other speakers we have are folks like Kaylee Klemp. Kaylee co-authored 2 really important books. The first one is The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, which is just a must-read, go-to guide for, frankly, business people everywhere, or the entire world should read this book. It's so fantastic. She also co-wrote The 80-80 Marriage with her husband. And so she's going to share 4 secrets of conscious entrepreneurs during her talk. We've got Jerry Colonna, who's a Boulder-based executive coach and someone who just really has been through a lot himself and has dedicated his life to helping entrepreneurs be successful. Rob Dubay, who runs and has founded a really interesting company called Image One. On top of that, he personally leads CEOs and leads retreats around mindfulness. He wrote a book called Do Nothing. He runs a great podcast himself also. And so these are just examples of the types of people that we're going to have there. We really aimed for exceptionally high quality in terms of the speakers and the content. I think there's something like 22 speakers in total. And let me just share, and this is really unusual for an event founded by a tech entrepreneur. Over 50% of our speakers are women. And so that's really an accomplishment in terms of the community that we're creating, the folks that we are bringing in to share with this. And so that's a big part of what we're doing, is making sure that we are representing everyone who's an entrepreneur, everyone who's out there in America. So I'm really excited about it. There's more info on the website, consciousentrepreneur.us. It's coming up really fast, but it's going to be a fantastic 2 days.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting. Just for our listeners, in our show notes, we're going to link to the website to purchase your ticket. And this is an in-person event. Is that right, Alex?
This is an in-person event. Yeah, we don't have a live streaming version. We just have in person. You got to come and hang out with us for the 2 days to get the maximum benefit.
That's great. Even better. And if you use the promo code Get in the Mode, you get $150 off to attend the event. So thank you, Alex, for providing that to our listeners. We really appreciate it.
You bet. I hope to see someone there.
Definitely. Now, let's talk a little bit about, as a conscious entrepreneur, I'm assuming this is a journey. Like once you step, it's a transformational journey that you're talking about. It's not a hack. It's not like a biohack or like, hey, you attend this and you do this for 2 days and 3 days or 5 days. You take this drug and your mindset's changed. It's not like that, right?
It is not like that. This is a world where, unfortunately, David, there are no shortcuts here. And this is all about doing the work. And if you ask any of the speakers who are there, any of the folks who have worked in this space for a long time, they'll tell you in many cases, your life's journey is to do this sort of thing. And so, no, we're not gonna simply sprinkle some pixie dust out there and send you on your way. The point of the event is to give you lots of resources. Now, if you show up, you've never heard of these speakers before, but you want to do something, there's some that you're naturally going to gravitate toward, and there's probably some that you're not going to gravitate toward. And that's okay. We want to give you the whole spectrum so that you can see, hey, what tool or what resource or what methodology is going to be right for me. And I don't believe that I have all the answers. In fact, I definitely don't, because that's why I brought together this community around the event. But we want to share those resources. And, some people are going to be willing to do this much work. Some are going to be willing to do this much work. And some people are going to dedicate their lives to this. And so it'll be really interesting to see how that evolves for people. And no matter what winds up happening, just taking the first step is the most powerful thing.
I wanted to ask you earlier, but what brought you to this? You've been a founder, you've been through Techstars. What's your personal story to create this summit?
Yeah, let me tell you the personal story. So several years ago, I guess 7.5 or 8 years ago, my company Kapta went through Techstars, the Techstars program here in Boulder. And if you're not familiar with that, it's a really well-known accelerator for early stage companies. It's very competitive to get into, very hard to get into. So it's considered a big deal. And we had the honor and the opportunity to join this program, which is really tremendous. About halfway through, while we were going through Techstars, my wife turned to me one evening after I got back from being at the Techstars office all day, and she said, this is supposed to be the highlight of your career as an entrepreneur, being in Techstars. And I have never seen you more miserable than right now.
Wow.
And she was right. I was skinny. I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't happy. And she basically gave me like a swift kick, right? And said, go sort this out. Go sort yourself out. And so what was I doing? Why wasn't I feeling great? Why was I stuck in this rut? And she was absolutely right. I was just miserable. I was spending my time comparing myself to others. Oh, what's everybody else doing? Oh, this person's more advanced here. Oh, this person's doing that. Oh, I should have raised money like this guy did. Oh, this, that, and the other. So I was spending all my time externally focused. I was also personalizing everything. Every piece of good news and bad news, it was as though it was a reflection of me as an individual. right? And when you're doing a startup, you've got feedback flying at you all day. And I was personalizing all that stuff. So I was getting really stressed about that. And I didn't have a good mechanism for talking about what was going on. Like I just, I'd come home, how was your day? Good. Like that was kind of it. And so I didn't have these tools. And so luckily, my wife really just, encouraged me and just bang, right? Hey, go out and sort this stuff out. And so for me, that kicked off this journey of exploration. And I read tons of books, I watched tons of videos, I went on meditation retreats, I did this thing and that thing, I did a CEO group and a men's group and so on and so forth. And that has informed this journey and this event. And so what I did was I then said, hey, I really learned from these people and this stuff. Let me go see if they want to participate in what we're doing, see if they want to join this community. So for example, the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, Kaylee Klemp is co-author, brought her in. Jerry Colonna, I went on a CEO retreat with him. Is he going to help? Sri Kumar Rao, I watched his videos and found them mind-blowing. So is he someone who can help as well? And so that's how we're bringing this together. So it was really me kind of getting to this point of like, is this all there is? Like, is this really how I'm going to go through life? How I'm going to be as a person and as an entrepreneur? And it was asking myself that question and saying, no, I'm not. I'm going to take control. I'm going to take charge of how I live my life, of how I respond to the world. And so I've been on this journey for a long time now. And this event brings together some of what I've learned and opens up the conversation.
That's great. Thanks for sharing your personal story. To wrap it up, if you were to leave our entrepreneur listeners, if they resonate with what you're saying here, they feel like they want to get on this journey. Apart from attending the summit, what's the first step that they could take on this journey?
Oh man, that is such a great question. I have been, so me personally, I'm a reader. Okay. So like I read books and it's how I gather a lot of information. And so there's a couple of things that I would recommend. I would recommend the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership as a book. I would recommend Reboot by Jerry Colonna, which is fantastic. Any of Sri Kumar Rao's books, Rob Dubé's book, Do Nothing, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. These are all like absolutely top-notch things to do. And the most important thread that goes between all those books is this: the world is happening. Whether you like it or not, the world is happening. It is still spinning. We're still on a rock in the middle of nowhere. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. The universe doesn't care what you think, but you can decide how you respond to what's happening around you. You can take 100% responsibility for your life. And so you're an entrepreneur, you're getting started, you're saying, hey, how do I figure this stuff out? What's the right path for me? Understanding that you choose how to respond to the world, that you have 100% power in how you respond to the world. It's easy to say, it's hard to do. Those books are some of the fantastic resources about it, but to me, that's one of the things that has just really changed the trajectory of my life.
Yeah, that's great. I'm a big book reader too, so I kind of kicked off this journey with books. Thank you for those recommendations.
What are some of your favorite books?
Well, I did a book by Cameron Herold called Vivid Vision. So that was more like the business vision. So, and then I actually hired a business coach more for well-being, and he was able to say, okay, you've got the business vision, but have you worked out your personal vision, and how does that align with that, right? So that really helped me, honestly, to have another fresh pair of eyes, and being opening up and being transparent with that person. He's older gentleman, really enjoy my time. We've become good friends. So that also helped me. And obviously you also mentioned peer groups, sometimes masterminds kind of can get into more, push you more into the hustle culture. but there could be some conscious entrepreneurs that you could be a part of, and hopefully the summit can pave way for those networking opportunities for the entrepreneurs who attend. But yeah, that's like business coaching and books as well. So that really did
Awesome.
help me. Yeah. Well, Alex, really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for being on our Get in the Mode podcast as a guest. Really appreciate your
Great.
time.
Super, David. Thank you. Great to be here. Enjoyed the conversation and appreciate the opportunity.